Good morning, everybody. Welcome to SafeDefend Live. I'm with the great Doc Vecchi, and today we're going to talk about the pilot over here's favorite topic, SA. Right? If you do not have situational awareness in your life and in your environment, your surroundings, a couple things will happen. You'll probably crash your airplane, just so you know. Second thing is you'll probably put yourself in a place where you can get hurt or injured. Third thing, you're going to be in a place you don't want to be with no way out. Is that fairly accurate, Doc?
Yeah, absolutely.
I look forward to hearing your thoughts.
Well, you kind of took my thunder. That's exactly what I was going to talk about, but we'll dig into some details anyway. It's one of those things where I was talking to Jeff Green, our boss and founder and stuff like this, and he has a real interest in this topic, and he wanted me to start developing some training. And I've done a lot of situational training on the law enforcement side and things like this, but it really applies across the board. I know it applies to you as a pilot, and it applies to anyone who might be at risk, especially, to violence or other bad things. And it's kind of really one of the things that we don't spend a lot of time on, because if you're not situationally aware, you can't choose the right or the best option for the given situation. You're essentially making decisions blind, right? And so, we always talk about, at least on these type of meetings and other podcasts and things like this, we're talking about school safety. We're always talking about the active shooter, right? That's always the thing. The situational awareness is applicable across the board, and I don't think we should pigeonhole it just on some sort of a shooter in a school. Everyone should use situational awareness for every aspect of their life, right? Now, I want to focus in terms of risk today, but I don't want to just talk in terms of school violence or workplace violence or the active killer, shooter, whatever it is like this. This is everyday stuff. Everyday stuff. As soon as you walk outside your house, you should have some level of situational awareness. And a lot of this comes from law enforcement training, and military training, specifically Air Force training.
Doc, let's just stop right there for a second, because you find a combat veteran in a restaurant, he will not have his back to the door and he will not be near a window.
That's right. We learned that from Wild Bill Hickok. That's right. That's where we learned that from. Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly right. So two things that pop up on this that I think are really important to understand. And again, this is taken from law enforcement and military, but forget that. Just look at it from the standpoint of what it is, because it's very applicable to everyone. Doesn't matter if you are a teacher, or you are a student, or you are an employee, or you're attending church, or you're taking your family out for dinner and a movie. All this applies. And two things I want to touch on that really make it, I think, really understandable to everybody is two things that every law enforcement military guy I've heard before. One is the Cooper Color Code, and the other is the OODA loop. Now, the Cooper Color Code, go ahead and pop that up for me if you would. The Cooper Color Code was developed years ago by a law enforcement firearms instructor named Jeff Cooper, hence the name. And he started I guess he was kind of like the granddaddy of modern shooting with a pistol, right? And what he did is he developed this idea of a color code. It was meant for law enforcement to say, okay, when you go out of your house and you are starting your duty day, what should your mindset be? How do you set yourself up for success? Okay. And so, aside from law enforcement, this is really applies to everybody. There's conditions. There's condition white, yellow, orange, red, and black. And the bottom line is that condition white is where most people are, and they really shouldn't be in condition white. Condition white is when you're not paying attention, when you're on your phone, right? You are just not paying attention to anything. And we see this more and more, especially with the phones, right? All you got to do is walk outside and you can see who's in condition white. It's the one people are bumping into things as they're talking on their phone or texting or playing video games or whatever. So that's condition white. Now, is condition white ever appropriate? Of course. When you're at home, you're with your family, you are just being, just with your just everyday stuff that you do privately. That's condition white. One of the things that happens then, though, is that once you leave your, I guess, your safe haven, once you leave um, your house, so to speak, we should go into condition yellow. Now, condition yellow is not a paranoid state. Condition yellow is nothing more than where you want to be in situational awareness. You want to be relaxed but prepared. You pay attention. You walk out. You look at people, right? You look around. You kind of check things out. You're looking for things that might be odd. And when you run into something that is odd, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, then you jump into condition orange, which is basically you're a little bit more ready to take action, and that's orange. If something happens, gunshot goes off, someone jumps at you, someone looks like they're going to attack you or hurt your loved ones, then you jump into condition red, and that's the action stuff, right? And for teachers and employees and things like this, the action is usually the run, hide, fight stuff, right? You can avoid, or in any situation, you can try to escape it, evade it, or engage it if you happen to. Condition black is where we don't want to be. Condition black is where we have it breaks down, and it happens where we go black, we don't know what to do, and we freeze, right? And that's the part we don't want to go into. And all of these are very, very trainable type things. And so let me go to the next slide here. So one of the things that we look at in yellow and orange is very simple. Okay. We have this thing where we leave our house, we go into a situation, and we always doing an initial scan. We go into a restaurant, we just kind of look around. You go to a bar, you look around. You go to you're in your, you walk into school or work, you look around. Okay. You're in condition yellow. You're just looking at things. You're looking for patterns of behavior. Now, this is where the idea of baselines and anomalies come in. We talked about threat assessment before. What it simply means is that we're looking for things that are odd. We can walk in, you read the room, and you say, okay, cool, right? No problem. And if there's no problem, you go about your business. But let's say something happens while you're in the room, or you walk into a room and you see something that is unusual, that has a negative connotation. You got two options. You either leave, or you go to condition orange, which is the next one that we talked about. And all that is an additional detailed scan. And what you try to do is identify what's important. You look and focus on that thing that caught your attention. So let's say you were in a bar or a restaurant and someone walks in, and it is a very hot day in the summer, and this person is looking around and he's wearing a trench coat. That's an indication of something to pay attention to. So if you saw that in condition yellow, then you would go to orange and look a little bit more. So what are we looking for? We're looking for anomalies, things that will explain or kind of determine, is there more to this than what it appears? So you're looking for things like maybe hidden hands, indexing, people touch their weapons, before they attack. Target glancing, they look around, they look at their target before the attack. Grooming, this happens in like attacks in like malls and on the street, stuff like this, where someone starts to, move this like their hair, or they start doing this. That's grooming. Unsolicited attempts at conversation. Just a presence that doesn't make sense, like the guy in the trench coat. Someone that impedes your movement, steps in front of you. Someone that's seeking the position of advantage, and then also the stuff that is no brainers, like maybe a gunshot, right? You hear what you thought was a gunshot, or people screaming, or people, things running around, things that are really unusual. Okay, at that point, again, you see that is unusual behavior. Then you got two choices. You either leave, or you gather more detail. Okay. If you have the need to act and go to condition red, we're looking for three things. We call it the rule 3. Okay. If 3 things happen, then it's probably bad. So if you hear a gunshot, hear people scream, and see an unknown person running down the hallway, that's probably an indication that there's a problem, right? So rules of three. If any of these three anomalies happen, then consider that you got to act. Okay. And there's essentially only a few things you can do. Okay. You can either avoid the situation altogether, which means you just walk away. So you walk into a restaurant, you see some weird stuff, it doesn't look right, and you just turn around and leave. That's avoiding. Or you're already there and something happens and you need to escape it. Okay. Or something, really starts to happen more than, look, somebody, making a movement. Let's say they draw a gun, or they are, starting to, perform some sort of violent action or whatever. Maybe you're going to evade them, and also you might have to engage them. And so that is condition red. And so we always train for condition red, but you really need to have the first the first few things, which starts with the situational awareness. Last thing I want to cover is this idea of the OODA loop. The OODA loop stands for observe, orient, decide, and act. And here's basically the bottom line on the OODA loop. This was developed by the U.S. Air Force. A guy by the name of John Boyd gets full credit for this one. And the OODA loop explains what we do in any time that we make a decision. If I'm going to pick up this pencil, okay, I already had to observe that, oh, there's the pencil. I orient myself. Yep, that's the pen. That's the pen. I pick it up, and that's my action. So observe, orient, decide, and act is what we always do. Okay, and so where this ties into situational awareness is training. Okay, if you're not trained on what to do or how to use situational awareness to determine a problem, then we enter the freeze mode, and the freeze mode is simply you're locked into observe, orient, observe, orient, observe, orient. I don't know what to do, mainly because I don't have the file folders. I don't have the experience. I don't have the training. And so this is really important to understand that situational awareness is the basis for determining your best course of action. If you want to run away from the danger, you want to stay. You want to evade it, or you might have to engage it, and best of all, avoid it in the first place. And so these are just some ideas on using, two of the most common things in situational awareness, drawn from law enforcement and the military. And that's the Cooper color code. Okay. What condition are you in? Ask yourself, am I in condition yellow? Well, you should be if you're outside your house. If I see something, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to make a determination. Is it negative? Yes, it's negative. Do I want to leave, or do I want to look at it a little bit more? Then I'm in condition orange. And then I look for rules of three. And if there's three things that concern me, that's all I need. I don't need any more information. I'm going to go in condition red, which means I'm going to act. And acting means I'm either going to avoid it, escape it, evade it, or engage it. And the only way I can do that is through training, so I don't get caught into that freeze mode of observe, orient, simply because I can't decide, because I don't know what to decide, because I'm not trained. And so that's just kind of, my thoughts on situational awareness. Is very simple. I teach this to law enforcement. I teach it to teachers. I teach it to everyone, because it's pretty much applicable to nearly, I would say, all situations. You just have to really understand, to know what you're looking for, and to not hesitate. When you've got those three indicators, you've got to make a decision. Other than that, you're going to freeze, and it's likely that bad things are going to happen to you.
Well, Doc, those are great points. I think the one thing that we see more than ever is that most people are oblivious. I mean, let's just be brutally honest. Everybody is down, looking at their phone, on their iPad, not really paying attention. You go into a cafeteria, you go into a classroom, you go into a business meeting, you go into Zoom calls. I have people get on, and I'm guilty of it too. Something pops on my phone, I go look at it, right? It's like,
right,
like a squirrel, right? And in the world, there's so many things that are happening around you that you have to stay aware. And I realize we have a lot going on our phones and stuff, but if you really want to prepare, right, yourself and be prepared if something happens, you have to know that something is happening. So, keeping your situational awareness up is important. I always say, keep your head on a swivel.
Mm-hmm.
Don't focus on one thing. There's a lot of other things going on. Don't be fearful, but be prepared. I always think that we should, when we're not at the house or not in a safe place, we should always be in yellow, right?
Yeah.
We should always be aware, always looking around, not panicking, not uncomfortable, but just aware, right? Listening, paying attention. The time to be in white, the time to be just totally chill is when you're in a really safe place, with people you trust in a controlled environment, but when you're out of the house and you're at school or you're at the office or you're wherever, don't put your head in the sand like an ostrich. Maintaining high situational awareness will keep you alive on the roads, in the mall, and at your school. So I really appreciate your discussion today, talking about the OODA loop. Love it. Air Force guy. I learned it years ago. It's a great way to react to any situation and know when to react. Having high SA will keep you alive. So with that, this week's episode of Safe Defend Live, Dave and Doc, we are out of here.
Have a great weekend.